Hi, Lisa. Hello, everybody. If anybody comes besides Lisa, but I know I kind of do this randomly, but I want to talk about the astrological energies and stuff, and I'm really hating the Pisces stelliums that are not ending. We were like getting out of it, and then everything, like so many things are retrograding back into Pisces that it's continuing. So it's like we basically don't really have an Aries season this year. But I think Taurus will be really spicy because there will probably be a lot of Aries throughout Taurus. So we'll probably have a little bit of a hybridization there. And I think it'll be really aggressive during that time, which will be interesting. But we still have mid blah nothing for now, which I hate. Of course, like last week, there was a lot of Aries energy, and I went to LA, and so I was kind of doing something, but I wasn't. I really just had a lot of reflection time there because Eric worked a lot, and so we did things like a little bit here or there throughout the day, but mostly I was just chilling, and then I reflected a lot, like on my love life and like the past and stuff, like very very Venus retro coded, which was really harsh when it was in Aries. Horrible. This week was tough, but I feel like I got a lot of answers about the past and stuff, and I appreciated the trip because I could finally sit and just think about one thing for once rather than having to spread myself super thin forever, basically, since August and do like four things at once, which is really challenging. So that was good. And I feel like I actually got to some conclusions. Like I figured out that I have often had a bit of a coldness towards men in general, which has not served me well. And I'm working to stop that basically. And I think it's pretty much on period what I need to do. Um, but other than that, the trip was pretty mid. It's kind of boring a little bit, but I knew it would be. But I got to have like a lot of seafood, like I said, really built up those nutrient stores. My scale is saying I gained 18 pounds, which is not real. Today is very like Neptune, deceptive, not real. There's a lot going on astrologically, like I said, with Venus going back into Pisces. So we have to talk about it. So first and foremost, I'm gonna show you guys some of the clothes that Eric gave me while I was there because he got rid of a lot of his clothes. So I just look at how tiny these are. So this is like aspirational. I'm definitely gonna have to put that in storage. But basically, I'm just gonna be doing my laundry while I talk about it. So with Venus going back into Pisces, it kind of reawakens the Pisces stellium. So we go right back to where we were throughout most of March. We really just had like that one period of time right when Aries season started where we had some Aries energy. So where some things were happening. And then it just died again. So now we're back to nothingness. We're back to, I don't need to be hanging this up because I'm not going to wear this for a hot minute. This is just a shirt. I'll just kind of show you guys as I go. But basically, we have we're back to the reflection, the endless dreaming, right? The nothingness, the void of Pisces, which I can't stand. So thank you so much, Lisa. I was just gonna try to do something with that, but thank you, Lisa. So when we have this void of nothingness, it leads us to a lot of reflection, and you combine it with Venus hitting Neptune. There's a lot of like hopelessness, I would say, around dating today. But probably just in general, like I said, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a trigger. For example, for me to have gained 18 pounds, but it's not real. It's definitely bloat, as my clothing sizes haven't changed at all. And I think it's mostly in my thighs, which is very like water coated for me. But it's still kind of like, I feel like there's a little in order, or like we can kind of redo something, as this happened already in January where Neptune hit Venus. So you can kind of harken back to January as something that happened around that time. You can probably kind of redo it, or at least rethink it. Here's this one. This is nice. I used to have a really big shirt that looked like this. It was a 3X. This one is, I think, just a large. So I'm not ready for that yet, but I should be in the summer. So that's why Eric gave me these clothes, because he was getting rid of them. And oh my God, my underwear. Scandalous. He was going to get rid of them. So I was like, I'll just take it, because, you know, it's hard when you're losing weight. You sometimes like don't have any clothes. So basically, I think that that's one aspect, is kind of that redoing. But there's also other issues with love, with Neptune and Venus together. There can be secrets exposed, or perhaps the cracking of a mask, or the showing of reality behind an image. We had a lot of this happen in 2022, as we had Jupiter with Neptune that year. So it kind of harkens back to 2022 issues and traumas, honestly. So anything that happened at that time with such a huge Pisces stellium, it's similar. We also have the same dissolving of boundaries that we've had every Pisces season for a while. So I think a lot of like, especially kind of like, I don't know how else to say this, because it's hard to sometimes talk about politics in astrology, but I kind of have to. So when it comes to like a lot of these, I guess we'll just say SJW, far left, whatever, codes of ethics. So like, you can't say this, you can't do that, you can't be like this. That's exophobic, you know, whatever aphobic. Those things are dying. They've been dying like every single Pisces season, pretty much, as we have these stelliums that happen every year, where it breaks down all of these social boundaries. And so when you have such a huge Pisces stellium, you have to be careful to really put your own limits. And I struggled with this with my diet, because I couldn't, you know, I didn't have any pressure when I was in LA. There was no financial pressure for me to not eat as much. So I couldn't help it. I just did. I ate a lot. This is an interesting, but it's the same thing with like social ethics. I'm just saying in general, that's the trend I'm seeing, is like these things of like, you can't say that, that's problematic, that's this, that's that. That's all dying. Those things are dying every time we have these Pisces stelliums. As at least in America, that's been the prevailing like strict code. So it's breaking down. So there are political things going on, obviously. I don't want to talk too much about it, but you kind of have to talk about it sometimes when you talk about astrology, because it's real. So you kind of have to figure out like your own personal limits in a time like this, what's appropriate or not. But remember, with Venus hitting Neptune, these are kind of funky fresh. I don't know. They're kind of giving 90s vibes. And I was like, you know what? I can pull off those colors. I'm just going to get them. So I got them. But anyways, and then Eric also gave me Adidas, which vibes. He gets it. But anyways, so I think you have to kind of decide your own code of ethics, because you're going to have a lot less social reinforcement. And this is important for me as a content creator as well, because I love this color, because I have to make sure, you know, I think there is probably going to be some cancellation energy in April, as well, as we go into probably an Aries stellium during Taurus season. That's going to be very warlike, and probably with that Pisces with Saturn and Pisces, there's probably going to be some cancellations and scandals. I think April will be really scandalous. But for now, it's the breaking down of these things and the ultimate like setting up for a cancellation for a lot of people in Taurus season. Because people, like I said, they start to develop this devil may care attitude. Whenever you have like a huge Pisces stellium, people just don't care anymore. So this does, like I said, have especially a love focus. So there are probably a lot of people who are going to be choosing a partner that's controversial or that people don't like, or there's a lot of two-facedness in love. So there's a lot of like duplicitousness, especially with the Gemini Jupiter at the same time. So I would say there's a lot of like people being indecisive, being of two minds, especially in terms of love. And in terms of, a lot of things, basically, also values. Remember, Venus also rules values. So it's like, and I agree with the astrologer I like, because he said it's the kind of thing where you tell people that you are saving money, but you're actually spending more. So it's like that kind of duplicitousness and hypocrisy. So it's like me, for example, I'm talking about how I'm losing weight and I've actually gained weight during this time. You see, this is Lana coded, so to get it. So there's a lot of that kind of duplicitousness and duality aspect right now, and a lot of lies. I don't know what else to say. I know that people probably don't want to hear that, but there's a lot of lying going on. Now, I will just say be very careful about lies in a time like this because they're likely to be exposed, especially with the eclipse season. Something's probably going to come out, especially in April. Like I said, there's a reason why April is so scandalous. It's because of this time in March. And remember, I told you that March is really about romantic tensions, especially. So there's a lot of tortured lesbianism about being single. There's a lot of, like I said, trying to choose between two people or, especially making a controversial romantic choice. I think that's, a lot of but daddy, I love him energy going on during this time. So a lot of, like I said, controversy around it. As some of these social limits. This I just got almost as a joke. It's a tank top, honey. God only knows. Why did they find me? Oh my God. I know, right? I'm just saying. So there's just a lot going on with that. There's a lot of but daddy, I love him, like I said. And I've had some scrutiny about some of my choices in love lately too. Yeah, I don't know, Lisa. It could be. But we really get the physical change after this solar eclipse. So that's when things will actually shift and we'll be able to see kind of where we're going to be at for the next 6 months. This is a nice shirt. I like this one too. I could actually wear this now. I actually fit in this because it's a large, but it's like a Forever 21 large. I don't know. They made it really big, but I can fit in it. So whatever. I'll wear it on a warmer day. It's still cold here, which sucks. It pisses me off, but that's a whole other issue. But yeah, so I'm just saying there's a lot of controversy around that. There's a lot of people thinking they're either ahead or behind in love, like a lot of confusion around it and shadowy stuff and in games. And I think people that are trying to date or people that are dating are probably struggling right now as it's tough. There are also a lot of breakups happening right now, probably. Or again, a lot of people that have probably been like Taylor and Travis and they made a love decision based on society, that would be breaking down. So if you're with somebody just because of how it makes you look, that's probably breaking down right now. And you're not really understanding why you did that. So because you're not getting much of a social benefit because of the stellium, like I said. So because there's so much Pisces, people aren't caring as much about what other people are doing. So if you're doing something for societal praise, you're not understanding why you're doing it because you're not getting any. So it could be very frustrating for a lot of people that are especially, still stuck in a Pluto and Capricorn paradigm. That's kind of what this is supposed to break up, is that aspect, because we're no longer in that. So you can't make these decisions. You can't make important decisions like who you love based on what other people think, especially not in Pluto and Aquarius. It's really not supportive at all. So that's what I think is happening right now, is there's these realizations around this issue. There's these realizations around this, especially, like I said, dating. I'm dating this person because they make me look good, but they're not making you look that good anymore. You see, there's not much of a benefit. The purpose of it is to determine, one, if you actually like somebody. Two, if you are, one, if you actually like somebody. Two, if you're really, well, I guess basically that's it. If you actually like somebody. Pluto and Aquarius is really about intrinsic motivation. I've talked about this a lot as we've, I probably took the streams down, but as we were getting into Pluto and Aqua, I talked about it a lot because it's one of the most important aspects. So it's about being with the person that you're actually compatible with versus being with the person that is going to make you look better or give you more money, right? Those are very Pluto and Capricorn things to do. Like I said, think Taylor and Travis. Travis is probably dating Taylor because he wants money. And I don't think he likes her, especially not now, as she's probably pissed him off a lot. And he doesn't look good dating her. He looks like crap. So I think he's probably really reflecting on his decision, and he may be deciding to dump her, honestly. But he'd have to do it. Maybe it will be in April. Hello, Bubble. Because like I said, that's where the scandalousness comes out, is in April. And especially scandals with love, but also political scandals. So just so you guys know, there's probably going to be huge scandals around the Trump administration in April. So, because it's also like political as well. I don't like to talk politics on my main channel, but sometimes when you talk astrology, you have to. So there's likely to be some actual scandals or betrayal or something. There's a lot in J.D. Vance's 8th house as well as Elon. So there's going to be something going on. So that should be kind of spicy, I guess. I don't know if it'll be real or not, because it's hard because everything is so surreal. But it will at least seem real during the time. And it could be real, But I think there's a lot of secrets right now. I think that's the biggest thing to keep in mind, is there's a lot of secrets and a lot of lies right now. A lot of people are lying. So when you lie, you open yourself up to scandal. And that's really the big thing about this time, and the big test is, and probably the best strategy is to tell the truth. Because if you're lying, you're probably going to be embarrassed later, So I try to just tell my audience, like, I'm eating weight. I've eaten a lot, right? I try to do things like that. That helps. If I were to be hiding that, that would look bad. And I try really hard, to be honest. But you have to kind of there's still aspects, even for me, where I'm not completely honest, even with myself. Like, I do talk a lot about how mean I am and stuff, and I don't think I'm actually that mean. I think a lot of it is I just don't want people to take advantage of me. I don't want people to feel like they can push me around, and I'd rather have people at a distance. So that kind of thing, it doesn't work. So I have to be careful with that too. So I'm trying, as I talked about it on my main channel, I talked about how I've been making myself a lot less emotional than I actually am, which isn't good, because when that emotion is exposed, it can be scandalous, right? So we have to be very real with ourselves. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I don't think I'm that mean, honestly. But I'm mean enough, put you that way. I do like to fight too, which that might come out. I have been hiding that. I've been trying not to fight, so I've been trying to be very peaceful. And so that's another aspect. But I do talk about how I have chapel rage all the time. So I'm trying. I'm trying to be real. I'm just not really showing how angry I am most of the time, which is probably, I might get canceled too, to be real. I really might, because hiding the anger and then exposing it at some point, I'm going to wear this today anyways. I'm going to wear my Georgie thing today. I've been going to the gym anyways, so I don't even need to hang that up. But anyways, I hope I didn't leave some of my socks there. I think I did, because this doesn't look good. Great. Jeez. Anyways, yeah, that doesn't look good. I think I did. Anyways, I'm so ratchet. So basically, there's a lot of that going on. Like I said, you have to kind of be very real with people, and you have to be like, don't have a mask on. And everybody kind of does to a certain extent. Like, I don't want you to think you have to be perfect, because you probably can't, but you just try to mitigate it as much as you can, because the less real you look, the more scandalous it will be in April when it comes out. Because I think especially with this final Aries eclipse, which is occurring on the 29th of April, there is a huge mask off moment, and it could be very harsh. Or, it could be good too. It's not necessarily negative, but there's been a lot of identity issues around these Aries eclipses, which they started in April of 2023, which for me personally, that's when I got dumped. So, and I have had identity issues. Like, I even had an identity crisis in the autumn of 2023. And then this year I've been dealing with losing the fat identity. Hello, Goblin. So again, that's still identity aspect, which is really challenging. And I don't personally love these Aries eclipses. The moon is debilitated. And again, Aries is really the only fiery energy we have right now, and it's being eclipsed, which means this is kind of like a continuation of Pisces season. It's not really ending, which means not much is going to happen right now. It's just all of these shadowy things and hidden things and games, and it's a lot of mask wearing, especially, oh, no problem, Goblin, especially in love. Like I said, where there's a lot of duplicity, but it's not just in love, it's in everything. People are not completely real. Like I said, I'm a pretty real person, and even I'm struggling. Like, I'm making myself come across as more mean than I actually am. I'm making myself come across as colder than I actually am, and it's starting to break down. I'm starting to warm up, and I'm starting to kind of be there. And that's hard, just because, like I said, for me, I do it to keep people away. And I can't really do that anymore. And it's hard to do that when you have this Neptune aspect. It breaks down barriers. So it might be good for me personally, because it's probably going to make me a more sociable person and a more romantically available person. That's probably how it's manifesting for me. For other people, though, like I said, it is a mask slip moment. It's something escapes, and that can be shocking, but you wouldn't necessarily see the shock because it's all hidden. Everything is hidden. So, Q1 fiscal report will be released on April 30th. I'm talking March 29th is the day of the eclipse. But that is interesting because that's right before the Mars retrograde cycle ends completely. It ends May 2nd. So that will probably lead to some political change and politics will become less touchy, especially if, for example, the Trump administration is showing economic improvement. It's going to shut a lot of people up about it. But like I said, I do see many personal scandals within the Trump administration in April, and they could be real. So unlike now with all this Pisces where there's a lot of lies, there might actually be something. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Elon was talking shit about Trump or something behind the scenes and that's exposed. Something like that could happen, or it could be really serious. So it could be, you know, attempts at people's lives. I don't know what else to say. But the first 2 weeks of April are really dangerous for people in political power, people within the Trump administration. It's very risky for them. And especially RFK, I think he is at the most danger of all of them. RFK Jr., Trump, it's not as much as it was last July. Last July, it was like exactly dangerous. And you saw what happened in his astrology. This time it's not that much, but it's like within a couple degrees. So just be aware of that could happen, but it may be happening. We might not know. They might not tell us. So that's another thing about this too, is there's a lot of hidden things going on, but it's really the first 2 weeks of April until Mars gets out of Cancer, finally on the 12th. It's really, really shaky or scary, basically. And like I said, I think that does kind of, in our personal lives, I just think there's a lot of, like I said, how could you choose that person? You know, there might be some decisions being made now that come out later. Like if Travis were to dump Taylor in April, which could happen, but he might be really deciding to do it now. As like I said, being with her for image and money is very Pluto and Capricorn, and it's outdated. It's done. So remember, the astrology going on right now, it's not as political. You know, we are used to a Pluto and Capricorn paradigm still. So everybody wants to make everything political, but it isn't like that. We had peak political astrology in 2020 and even in the years after, but especially post 2023, it's become a lot more personal. And 2024 was a very personal year. It was not that political. This year is even less political. The only thing keeping it kind of politically relevant is this Mars retro, which ends May 2nd. So politics for a lot of people will become in the back. Well, it will go completely in the background come May, as personal issues take huge precedence. And as romantic stuff finally hits neutral, it hits neutrality. We've been in such an unromantic time, really, since summer of 2023. It's been very, very dead romantically. And that's a long time. So there will be people kind of chomping at the bit come May and like really trying to date as they can perceive a shift. I think there's going to be an economic shift too. I think things will start feeling more normal around May. And you also have this, the romantic aspect will continue to improve throughout the year going into October, especially. It gets really good to date, really easy to date. So a lot of people will be entering into relationships towards the end of the year. But this kind of starts in May. So you have to prepare yourself for that. And like I said, I think part of this is us shedding that mask and being who we really are and showing who we really are. And then we can finally attract people who are right for us, basically. I think that's what is happening this March. But think of it that way. March is the shedding of the mask so you can make the proper decision. April is making the proper decision and facing backlash for it or criticism in a lot of cases, whether that's breaking up with somebody. Oh, no problem. No problem, Lisa. But yeah, that is really what's happening. Like I said, then April is very, but daddy, I love him. You know, like people are like, why are you with him? What the hell? And you're like, because I love him. And it's that type of energy. And I think things are still like that in May too. Like I think April and May, there is scandal around romantic decisions, but it's especially sharp in April, for sure. And I think especially with Mars still in Cancer, there's so much insecurity. People are really tripping still. And it's a very harsh transit. It's been horrible. This Mars retrograde has been one of the worst transits ever. It makes people so insecure, so scared, desperate feeling, um, fearful, right? Like all of these emotions have really come up a lot, cause a lot of family problems, romantic issues, right? I think for most men, it's completely sapped their confidence, and that puts most women on edge as men are not really as present. So it's really hard right now, dating wise. Like I just have to like really affirm that. Like if you're trying and you're struggling, it's not really your fault. It's really, really hard. But like I said, I think it's meant to shake these identity aspects and shake these barriers that we have towards love through at times the complete embrace of hopelessness or the complete giving up, basically, or giving up on especially these image aspects that are just irrelevant now as Pluto is no longer in Capricorn. So it's still a transitionary process from Pluto and Capricorn, but it's hitting it romantically now, which is a big deal. So, like I said, you're going to see a lot of people make choices that you would be surprised by in April, but those decisions are probably being made today or now. Those decisions are really being reflected on now, for the reasons I've discussed. And that's really the biggest thing. Other than that, this can feel like a time where you've lost all progress. Like I said, I gained 18 pounds. But it's illusionary. It's not real. It'll go back. But it's also just a lot of like boringness, mid feelings, right? All of that comes back with Pisces. It's still struggle with the economy, right? It's still like there isn't much going on. Like there's a lot of emptiness in this time, and because of that, there's a lot of isolation for a lot of people. So this is a time where people are lonely. But it's all about deconstructing social pressures, specifically around romantic choices. That's what's happening right now in terms of all of this. Yeah, I know for me, I have a huge like fifth house aspect to all of this, which is like your house of love and romance and self-expression. Like it really has to do with my love life and has to do with YouTube, those two things, because it's also self-expression. So how I come across, which like I said, I think I have to come across as more warm because I am a warmer person um, than I act. And so that's hard because I don't trust people. I really don't. Um, and I don't have any reason to trust people. Like, honestly, I don't. So, especially not publicly, especially not like, on YouTube or whatever. But I have been loosening up with it really for a couple months. So it's been a slow process. But if I do end up getting canceled, I won't be surprised. I just won't. Because people are weird online and, it's just weird. But I think for me, especially, it really has to do with expressing myself as no longer fat. And it's been really hard, and part of me wonders if there was some kind of subconscious thing of like wanting to eat a lot on this trip so that it delays it further, But I don't know. Maybe not. I could have just been hungry. I'd been in a deficit for 12 weeks, right? Basically. Maybe 11-ish weeks, 10, 11 weeks. Like when you get to 12, it gets really hard to continue. So I kind of needed to eat a lot and I can do that. So I was able to do that. And now I can just continue. But it's like I have to be really strict financially. We'll see, Riz. I don't think you guys will. I think other people may come in. Like I might have a moment where my channel blows up or something. Like there might be something coming YouTube wise. I do feel it. I also think romantically, this eclipse is really significant for me personally. It almost completely trines my sun astrologically. So there's something's going to happen. I can tell something's coming. Um, but it could be anything. It's going to be YouTube or romantically or both. It could be both. But it's that fifth house. And but I think it's still about that no longer expressing myself as a fat person, which even flying on the plane, there was nothing weight related. That was so weird. That was so bizarre. And I have dealt with so much projection in the mids, and it's really hard. And I think it's because I haven't been expressing myself enough. And so I have a lot of these issues that I've been talking about in this stream. Like the mask does have to come off, the armor has to come off, like these things have to change because it's not real. You know, I'm not a cold person. I'm not unemotional, or I'm not that mean. You know, I can fight, and trust me, I can be really mean if I need to be, but I'm not really like on the attack all the time. You know what I mean? And I act like I am, but it's because I want people to stay away. And that has to stop because you can't like have people stay away and like have a successful activistic channel. You know, like that's just stupid. It doesn't work. And through that opening up process, I wouldn't be surprised if it opens me up to love as well, you know, because it's that same openness. That's how they're connected. So that's how it's affecting me. You guys have to see how it's affecting you because it could be different for everybody, you know, but just think a lot about that duplicitousness. So like, are there things that you talk about and say you're about, but you're doing the opposite? Like with me, I talk all about losing weight and I gained weight this week. You know, think about things like that. Are you saying you're saving money, but you're spending a lot? Are you saying you believe in this value, but you're doing the opposite? That's really important because those types of things need to be resolved. And you kind of have to be real with yourself and be like, look, I'm not really this type of person. I'm this type of person, especially with this final eclipse in Aries. It really has a lot to do with identity for all of us. So I think the true you will be coming out, whether you want it to or not, with this eclipse in Aries. And if you do not ease into it, then it can be really harsh. And like I said, you're probably going to be met with scandal of some sort in April. And that may happen anyways. That may be something that we all have to deal with, especially April, May. You know, I think for me, it might be more so May rather than April. But I think April, it might be heating up, might be like really coming through. But I think as more planets go into Aries throughout April, it will be more warlike. There will be more fighting and people will be at each other's throats a lot. And money will start to improve in May. So, but it's not really there yet in April. So there's still like ugliness around it, you know? There's still kind of this vibe in April. So I would just be kind of, just try to be as real as you can now. That's my advice. Otherwise, that eclipse is going to force you. Something's going to be exposed. It's going to force you to be real, and you'll be met with huge scandal. And I've tried to ease my way into this. So I've done a lot of work on this personally. I could kind of perceive it. So I've done a lot of work. It shouldn't be that bad. It should be somewhat mitigated. But I don't think I'm immune. You know, I don't think any of us are. So don't be surprised if you face a lot of judgment in April over something. Like I said, it will affect everybody differently. It could be financial, it could be this, it could be that. All I can say in a general sense is it's that, but Daddy, I love him, April. It's really romantic choices. So it's a lot of people breaking up with somebody and people being like, why the fuck are you breaking up with them? It could be a lot of people getting with somebody and people being like, why the fuck are you getting with them? I don't get it, you know? And there's still that Saturn Jupiter square. There's a lot of judgment, jealousy, these types of things still, they're very strong and it's very negative. Saturn is really strong right now and Jupiter is weak. So it's a very negative time. It's very pessimistic, very scrutinizing. If you feel insecure, like there's nothing wrong with you. You're meant to really scrutinize every little thing. It's very hard to be delusional right now. It really is. Even despite the fact that Neptune is tied up in this, it tends to make people more delusionally negative than positive. So you're probably not being overly optimistic. You might be being overly negative during this time and overly fearful and overly these types of things. That's more likely. So if you see something, if you see hope in something, it's probably real. Honestly, there's probably something to it. If you have actual evidence or actual things that have happened, you're not totally crazy. If you see any light in this darkness, that's probably a real light. The darkness may not be completely real. So you have to think of things. And this is how we use negative times. It's how we use recessionary times. We can decide and figure out what's important to us, what has hope and what doesn't, what has staying power. If you're still engaging with something or somebody during this time, there's a reason. If you still feel good about somebody during this time, there's a reason. Because this is a massive test. It's a huge testing point. So you can't completely give up hope, but it's a very unromantic time, extremely unromantic. And like I said, there's a lot of romantic tension. So if things are not going well, it's not likely to last through April. You're probably going to get out of it because it's going to start to be completely unbearable if it isn't already, which I think for a lot of people, it's already getting unbearable. Like I said, I love to use Taylor and Travis as an example. Travis looks like a shell of a person. I think Taylor's fine with him. I don't think he likes her. I think he's over her ass. And I think he probably did date her for money and stuff. So if he gets canceled, that's kind of on him. Honestly, it's a bad decision he made. But that's a really good example. Like, I think it will just be unbearable, especially, with all the scandals going on. I think Taylor will get canceled or there will be something with that. It'll be even worse. It'll be another escalation, another one for her. She's already been canceled so many times. It's really come down a lot from her highs of 2023. I think it will escalate again in April as a lot of scandalous things will happen, especially with powerful people. So like I said, look to the Trump administration. There's going to be a lot of scandal about the Trump administration in April. A lot of things coming out, a lot of news articles about it. Like I said, I don't know how real everything will be as there's still a lot of Pisces, which is kind of deceptive, but there may be truth to it. I think you'll have to look into everything. But especially like with Taylor Swift, like she's another example of somebody who will probably be canceled or there will be huge scandals coming out around her, which again, it would make Travis look bad to be with her. So what's the point? He doesn't even like her. She ain't doing anything for him socially. Why is he with her? You see, that type of thing, it's just going to be unbearable. I don't know about that, BL. I don't really get the vibe that Travis is gay. I know there is a lot of things about that. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? If he is, that would be crazy. That probably would be something that comes out soon because it's hard to hide those things come April. You can hide now though, but we're almost out of March. So all these things are breaking down. Like I said, there's a devil may care attitude coming through. People are not caring anymore. And, okay. I think it will be more chill after. It's definitely more chill after the 12th. So once we get out of Mars in Cancer, it will be easier. At that point, Venus retrograde also ends that day. So things will improve, but that's still almost midway through April. The first 2 weeks are rough in April still. It's not that much better. It might actually be worse, to be honest, at least on a social level. A lot of fighting in those 2 weeks. It might be better financially. That may be true with Venus being back in Pisces, that does boost finances. So, but it is with Neptune and Saturn, so it's very muted. It's not great financially. Even with Venus being strong, it's not really helping. It's kind of just it's taken down a notch, basically. Because Saturn and Neptune, it just makes it weird. So you have to think about that too. It's just not that great economically. It's really bad, honestly. Like I had a lot of those conversations with people when I was in Cali, because like everybody, like all my friends were really feeling the economy. And I was like, it's bad. Like you're not hallucinating, like it really is that bad. It's even that bad astrologically. So you have to like just be aware of that. But like I told you, you use these negative times, you use these recessionary times to decide what's important to you or to see what's important to you. What are you still putting effort towards? What are you not willing to not pay for, right? What are you not willing to give up on when things are hard? What are you still feeling good about when things are hard? That's what we have to look at, you know? And for me, I have quite a lot that I still feel good about. So I think I am working towards everything I need to, but there are still aspects that I have to work on. Like I said, I have to show more of myself, which is hard, because you have dipshits and assholes, especially online. But I have to really, for me, I have to remember my cause and my purpose for why I'm doing this and what will be more effective. That's really what it all goes back to. Because again, I've had a lot of issues being mid-sized. It's really hard. Like people just, I don't know. I mean, it may be this way forever, like I said, but there's just so much projection. There's so much, and there's so much of like, you're amazing, you're disgusting, like at the same time. And it's really hard. And sometimes I can't tell how how people feel about me in general because it's so whiplashy. So I struggle a lot. But I knew that when I was in the mids, it would be a lot more about personality. It's more of a personality contest. And so I have to show more of my personality. And not everybody's going to like me, and that's okay. I don't care. That part I don't care. It's just, it's still a little bit hard. It's more of like an introvert thing. It's just hard. It's hard to show yourself. That's hard. It's very difficult. And like I don't struggle as much with sharing my ideas or sharing like the logic and stuff like that or making these arguments, but it's another thing to show who you are and to show more of like your emotions and things like this publicly. I'm not going to show everything. It's not like I wouldn't have some kind of boundaries, but it's like I think in general I have to show more. So it's like people in my personal life, I have to be more warm and open, especially with certain people. Maybe even a certain person. But oh my God, y'all. But I think when it comes to, I just have to kind of turn up the dial basically. So keep things warmer in general and reassess boundaries and stuff, which is there's a lot of reassessing of boundaries in love as well. Are your boundaries too strict? Or are they too loose, or both? Are they inconsistent? Right. Think about these things, especially today, and really reflect towards for the rest of the Venus retrograde, which ends on the 12th of April, I believe. So from now until then, you have to think about it. And people will be kind of at their worst, or, so if their worst is not that bad, then like I said, have a little bit of hope. Because, it's hard to hide who we are during this time too. Especially April. I think it'll be really hard. But after this eclipse, it's kind of over. You can't really hide it that well. So, prepare yourself for that. We've had this building all month. So here we are, But I guess that's pretty much all I have to say. I have to try to get to work today, but thank you guys so much. I wanted to definitely talk about this because this is huge. Talk to you guys later. I still don't have a lot of time anymore, which sucks. So I do have to try to work, and I can't really be live as long as I used to be. But I will be back when I can. I'll see you later. Bye. If this will end.